Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of The Skin and Stitch, a podcast following two friends in their journey through medical education. I'm John, and today I'm joined not only by my co-host Mahak, but by our first guest, Florence Kang. Florence is a rising third-year medical student interested in pediatrics and passionate about community outreach and population health. Florence is a student ambassador, an American Academy of Pediatrics medical student delegate, and an ambassador for population health. She is also involved with the Pediatric RSO, the Student Osteopathic Medical Association, Diversity in Medicine, and Rocksteady Boxing. So let's get started.
Welcome to episode 3 of The Skin and Stitch. My name is Mahak Sharma, and this is my co-host, John Winton. And today we have a very special guest, Flo. She is joining us today to talk a little bit about herself and her future goals. So excited that you're here today, Flo. And before we get started, we need to discuss...
You didn't kill them behind you.
What? Oh.
Let's see that.
Yeah, let's see it. Okay. So my friends convinced me to write a little thing behind me as a backdrop. So that's a new thing. But yeah, welcome to the
Skin and Stitch. All right.
Yeah.
Drinks?
Okay. Drinks? Okay. You go first.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Yes. I have a sparkling water. Lemon. Not flavor.
Lemon.
Sorry. Yeah.
And the cup makes an appearance.
My
again.
$2 Coca-Cola glass.
Mhm.
Cheers.
I like that.
All right.
Cheers.
What about you guys?
Okay. I have, and I know I said I wouldn't drink this every time, but I do have an Alani. This one, it's not as good as last time, but this one is called Cherry Twist. And it's just I've been sipping on it lightly as I've been doing my work.
Okay.
Hello, do you have a drink?
I do have a drink. My usual, you can't see it, coffee.
OMG, that looks so good.
Order of choice?
Wait, what's your order?
This order?
Uh-huh.
It was sweet and salty is what it's called. So it's like salted caramel and white chocolate.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. With that, should we get started? So
Yeah.
I'll start us off. Flo, could you just walk us through your journey with medicine? So what started your interest in medicine? Can be, since you were a kid or high school, middle school, college, whenever. And then beyond that, how did you end up kind of settling on pediatrics as something that you're really interested in?
Yeah. So originally as a kid, I was not interested in medicine. I was very much interested in like tennis or like teaching, things like that. So I wanted to either be like a tennis coach or like an elementary school teacher, whatever it was. That's kind of what my original, I guess, dreams were when I was a little kid. But then as it progressed, I became more interested in, I guess, just healthcare in general, not necessarily like being a doctor. Because I just feel like my strengths were like science, math, like in those fields. So I wanted to do something related to that. So then it kind of turned into like, oh, do I want to be like a dentist? Do I want to be like a pharmacist? So I had those thoughts for a little bit. But then in high school, as I got more involved in like working in hospital or like volunteering in hospitals or like retirement homes, etc., I realized that I actually do want to go more into the medicine field with like becoming a doctor. So from there, in college, I majored in bio, typical pre-med route, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's where I majored. And from there, I honestly tried not to be a pre-med because my parents were very much like, this is going to be too hard. Like, you're going to struggle with all the hard work. Like, it's a long journey. Like if you want to have a family in the future, like it's going to be really hard because once you graduate school and then residency, like I'm going to be older, right? It's going to be a lot harder to do all those things. So I did try other classes. Like I tried like computer science classes, I tried business classes, but it just wasn't as interesting. So now here I am in medical school, doing all these things. So with pediatrics, I think the biggest thing for me, so I guess the main reason why I'm in medicine is because I value the relationships I can form in medicine, because I feel like it's very different from other fields. It's hard to really form a deep connection with someone unless you really are in the medical field, because like people are being vulnerable with you from the beginning. And so I really like that part of it. And then with like pediatrics, I get to see people growing up over time. And I think that's what really gets me. I like to see the progress, and I feel like I can do a lot with like preventative care. They're so, like kids are so young, they have so much potential. And I feel like there's a lot more I can do to help them as a pediatrician. So
yeah, and I think you mentioned when you were younger, wanting to be an elementary school teacher and a coach and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of that sort of the teaching part is still there as a pediatrician. You're just teaching kids about health. So I think you'll find some overlap there too.
Yeah, I really like the part where you mentioned that it's really not really easy, but it's easy to form a deeper connection with people in healthcare because they're vulnerable from the beginning. And I remember one of our professors telling us that, never forget the privilege that you have, that you go into a room and someone will tell you like everything about themselves just because you are a physician. And that's like such an honor and a privilege, and something that we should carry with us throughout the entirety of our careers. And so I really do like that point that you made. Kind of moving on to something that I was wondering was, what has been the most surprising part of your journey through medical school? Is there something that you didn't really envision you'd be doing or learning when you first planned on attending?
For sure. So, most surprising part? I think one is just I guess how difficult medical school is. Like, I knew it was going to be hard, right? Like, I didn't think it was going to be like just a smooth sailing road, but it's just like with everything that we have to learn, it's kind of just shocking to see how much my brain can fit, if that makes sense. Like in undergrad, I feel like I was struggling to learn these few lectures, but now it's like we have that amount of lectures in 1 week. It's not like one semester, it's not 1 month, it's like 1 week. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of crazy, like how much information we can actually like fit into our minds every day. So I guess more so like rather than school itself, it was more so like surprising about myself, like things I'm learning about myself on this journey.
But it's like a positive, right? It sounds like you're staying on top of it. So it's like, it's crazy to see how much I grow as a person and can understand.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm starting medical school this fall, so I think it hasn't hit me yet. I'm anticipating a lot of work, but probably I don't know half of it. So I have a bit of a heavy hitter question for you. So as you know, a lot of people within the medical field and probably outside of the medical field label pediatrics as like a difficult field, right? You have patients that probably don't understand the care that you're providing because they're children. And a lot of times they might put up a fight, or they're not outwardly grateful for it because they might associate going to the doctor with something being wrong, right? Or some sort of illness. And then on top of that, you have the parent as like a secondary patient, and somebody else who you can't focus just on the kid, but also on the parent who's really connected to their child. And, that can be helpful, and it can also be kind of a roadblock. And on top of that, there's and this is not a rule, but it's a trend that pediatrics tends to be not compensated as well as other medical specialties. And if you take, for example, a pediatrician's salary and divide it by the hours that they work, a lot of times they're even paid less per hour. So it's not just that they work less and they get paid less, but the overall compensation is not as high. And so I think it's something that scares a lot of people away from the field of pediatrics. So if you were to speak to somebody, well, first, what draws you to this field that a lot of people shy away from? And then if you were to speak to somebody interested in pediatrics, why would you say, yes, this, but also there's something that a lot of people don't see?
I think for me, like I hear all the time, pediatrics is one of the lower paying type of specialties and whatnot. But for me, I think the rewarding aspect of it is much more valuable than the compensation. Like regardless, I feel like the compensation is still good. It's not as good in comparison maybe to other specialties, but for me, I'm getting, I guess I can, how do I phrase it? Like the progress that I see, I guess, and the potential that I see, and like working with these kids and the parents, like it's very difficult. Obviously, like parents will be worried for their kids. Like that's their baby. They went through all this work to raise them, care for them. But I feel like it more so comes from like the goodness of their heart, and like it really shows like how important their kid is. And it just takes a lot more patience, I think, in this field. So for those who do want to do pediatrics but are kind of scared of those things, I think it helps a lot to, I guess, change your mindset about how you see these things instead of seeing it so, I guess, negatively. You're just like, oh, I'm not getting paid as much, or oh, these people are so difficult to work with, or oh, like, why won't they listen or understand what I'm saying? I think more so thinking of like, oh, like the work I'm putting in, like, wow, they've grown so much, or like, look at the progress that they've made, like ever since I first saw them. Or, oh, maybe they're just a little more scared, they're scared to try something new. This is very foreign territory for them. So that's why they're, kind of acting so negatively, or maybe are like lashing out a little more. So I think a big thing is about like how you think of it and how you see the situation, because if you keep thinking on the negatives, like it's going to bring you down. It's going to drain you. And I think that is a big reason why there's so much burnout in the field. But I for me, like I just try to see why people might be acting a certain way, or why they might not understand certain things, like maybe they just have never been exposed to that kind of like health literacy. So just guiding them through that.
Yeah, that's a really good take. So it sounds like you're looking for a field that would be inspiring for you to work in for the foreseeable future. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I think I also really liked what you said about, instead of looking at it negatively, look about all the progress that you've made since you first saw the patient. And you mentioned previously that you wanted to have patients who you could see grow. And I think any sort of growth, even if something might seem small, like even that 1% that you might be helping somebody from the moment that you saw them, is reason enough to continue doing what you're doing. And I think that is very admirable. I want to ask you another question. I think medicine is always evolving, and we've seen so many specialties look significantly different, or take on completely new fields of work compared to what was present just, 20 or 25 years ago. For example, I know a lot of surgical specialties with the, advanced technology, and they have new I have to search or research more into it, but they have like new robotics and like things like that that assist with surgery. I mean, it's completely changed the role of a surgeon from what you had 25 years ago. In the future, do you see pediatrics evolving as a specialty? Or how is it kind of changing currently? Do you think it's for the better, for the worse?
I feel like, I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't been to like updated in like actual pediatrics just because I feel like as a medical student, it's very hard to get myself out there and be as up to date as I would like. I think a big thing that I've seen though, especially ever since like COVID times, a big factor that now like pediatricians and like is like emphasizing pediatrics is like mental health. And I feel like that's really big, especially with the pandemic, everyone was inside, like life is very different from then. And so I can see like what I guess the different values are now in pediatrics when people are seeing their doctors and what people focus on. Obviously, the healthcare is still there with what they need to do with wellness visits, but now there's like a mental health factor to it as well. With like advanced technology, I think a big thing is it makes, I guess, healthcare a bit more accessible because now you can easily access healthcare a lot more. But with that, the con is that there's a lot of misinformation out there in the world with all the social media platforms and whatnot. And so I think a big thing is to kind of, like parents are going to look up things and kids are going to see different like TikToks or Instagram reels and they're going to be like, oh my God, like this is what I need to do. Like this is important for my health. But, I think that's where the whole advocacy comes in, health literacy. It's really important to make sure that the true information is getting relayed to parents and families. And yeah, not sure if I question, but
Yeah, it's
No,
interesting.
go ahead.
Okay. This isn't really a super important point, but when you were bringing up TikToks, I'm just trying to imagine what today's pediatricians have to deal with when kids come in having, eaten a Tide Pod or something. And I think it's a really different atmosphere than it was. Probably 40 years ago, parents were letting their kids play alone on playgrounds and stuff, and so they'd get hurt in different ways. But
Yeah, no, I like that you mentioned that because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Sometimes, like I'll admit, like if I'm watching reels and I get 5 reels in a row saying you need to start using this supplement or you need to start, why are you laughing? It's real, okay? Like, and we're talking about it in the context of children, which are much more impressionable than somebody who is, a medical student in medical school. But even if you are like considering yourself or your parents, they're like, I just saw 5 reels and it says I need to do XYZ for my health, or I need to use these vitamins. And these days there's brand ambassadors and they're paid to present certain products in certain ways that make them appeal to the public. So, it's not like a super crazy idea that, the evolution of social media and the introduction of technology at a very young age is causing like significant changes. And, when patients come to the office and they tell you like, oh yeah, I think I need to start this or I need to start using this in my diet. And so I do think that was very well said, what you said, Flo. And it kind of made me laugh that,
yeah, sorry. The whole social media thing is really, it's a big issue, I think. And it's, when you read headlines, it's really almost too crazy to believe. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this is what you brought up about the pandemic. I think it's very interesting time to go into pediatrics right now because everybody can kind of agree, I think, that the pandemic has really, I don't want to say like, well, it has messed with kids' development, right? You can see it academically. Test scores are down in terms of like reading comprehension and literacy and, math skills. And they still haven't gone back to the trend that they were at before the pandemic. And so obviously this isn't strictly about physical health, but it's in the realm of population health or holistic approach, which I think is something that you're also really interested in. So I wanted to talk a bit about population health, since you said that you're an ambassador. And so broadly, what does population health mean to you, or how would you explain it to somebody who wants to learn more about that field? And how important is it that physicians understand population health when they're caring for patients?
Yeah, I feel like population health is relevant wherever you go. There's going to be a lot of gaps between different populations, and it's really important to make sure you address those differences and actually like work towards helping patients. I think the biggest thing people need to know is the difference between like equality and equity. I feel like that is really a big foundation of population health. Because, people always think that equality and equity are the same, but they're really not. You can provide the same resources to everyone, but sometimes like that's not enough for some people, right? So really understanding that some populations will need more help, more resources, more validation, more education, whatever it is, that's really important. And with population health, I think a lot of it is education and exposure. It's really important, I think, for us to all be able to really like put ourselves out there and be in those communities that are different from where we came from, because we need to learn like the different perspectives and the different lifestyles people go through, because those people could be living in the areas that we want to practice in the future. And so and that's my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you brought up a really interesting point about equality and equity, because I think most people would say, if I treated every kid the same, and if I gave, like, I guess for a doctor, if they said, I gave each patient the same treatment plan and I tried my best with each patient, then does that mean I'm a good doctor? And I think what you're saying is that especially for children, they need a personalized or an individual plan that kind of tailors to their needs. And some people might need more help and some people might need, less help. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
No, I was thinking the same thing. It kind of reminded me of when I was shadowing a physician and he was going over treatment plans with a patient. And it's something that's like very commonly seen is they talk about like a certain drug or medication, and then the insurance that the patient is on either covers that drug or it doesn't cover the drug. And then the physician has to kind of think of, okay, well, now I have to give this drug instead, or I have to put this person on this plan for this long. And I think that also kind of ties in, like the aspects that we were talking about how everyone is, whether it's like a literal financial constraint or it's their, background that kind of influences the way that they perceive the care they're receiving or can afford the care. The physician just has to be able to understand that and respect that and kind of make decisions that will always be in the best interest of the patient. And yeah, I completely agree with what you both were saying. Speaking a little more about population health, do you think medical schools are like responsible to teach students about population health? And how do you think med schools are doing so far in general? Like, do you think that there can be improvements in the way that students engage and understand how to best serve underserved communities? I just wanted to hear your input on that.
Yeah, I think that I totally forgot your first part of the question, but I do think that medical schools, there's very different, I guess, ranges as to what medical schools teach regarding population health. I know some schools have more of an emphasis than others, but I do think overall there needs to be more emphasis. I feel like a lot of schools don't have that early exposure in like the actual like communities that students should have like within like their first and second year. Because think that a lot of like lecture materials and like videos, like it's very like, oh yeah, this is something. These are people out there, but it doesn't actually feel real until you're in the communities, actually talking to these people, helping them out with their health, whatever it is. And I feel like that was kind of the case for me too. Like I was like, oh yeah, these populations, oh yeah, they exist, but I've never met them. So like, I'm not really sure like how hard that's hitting me. But then once I kind of got out there, I started helping with like health screenings in these communities and seeing like what they really were struggling with. Like, what are the actual conditions that are like relevant in this community? So once I started putting myself out there, then I was like, okay, this is really important. Like these people are real. Not that I didn't think they were real before, but now they're like in front of me and like I'm making these connections with them and I'm actually understanding what is going on with them. And I think a lot of schools need more of that for students to actually like realize how important the whole population health and community health is.
What inspired you to, I guess, finally go out and participate with health screenings? Was it something that your medical school said, you know, oh, now that you're a third year, we're going to put you in front of these patients? Or is it something that you took on, I guess, extracurricularly or co-curricularly?
It was a mix of both. The school that I go to has a really big emphasis on like population health. And I think that was like also a huge selling point at this school. With like previous like students that I had talked to and stuff, they always had a great experience with going out in the community and doing all these opportunities. And that was something I knew I wanted to be a part of when I did come to this school. And so I think that was, I guess, the start of it. And because like our school does require us to do things within the different communities, that exposes all our students to the different populations. And then for me, like that sparked my interest. And then I wanted to kind of go more deeper into that, which is why I became the ambassador for population health. And that allowed me to even make further connections, actually put on events that relate to the health conditions of certain populations.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wanted to, I guess, go back to one of your previous points that you had made about the rise of media and its intersections with health. And I think it's really, the intersection is really significant for pediatric health especially, and they tend to make headlines in media a lot because everybody cares or, you know, claims to care or positions themselves as caring for the health of the country's children, right? And I think oftentimes it tends to lead to sensationalization, and you see lots of controversy about what is the best way to care for a child, right? And one well-known example of this kind of debate is about vaccinating kids. And I want to emphasize the debunked link to autism. And so I'm just wondering how, as somebody in both pediatrics and population health, how does the media attention and sensationalization, or I guess the spotlight on pediatric health, how does that affect population health initiatives and pediatric care in general?
So it definitely makes trying to make an impact with different initiatives more difficult because people already have a certain mindset. They already have a certain belief based on what they're reading on the media, on the news, whatever it is. But I think that's why these initiatives are even more important, because they are lacking that education aspect of it. They're just believing, you know, everything they see online, because it's like, oh my God, this is the top news. This is what's going on right now. But it doesn't have like enough evidence and backup information to support those findings. And so with the initiatives and working in population health, you can really educate people to kind of correct their, but not necessarily correct them, but just like give them more information on the topic so that they can form a better opinion about it and make a better educated decision for themselves.
Right. I like that you emphasized continuing to allow people to make a decision. I think that that's difficult and probably even more difficult in terms of pediatrics, because it's not even like your patient, their decision is being made by somebody else, right? And so, yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you brought up. And obviously something that physicians should always respect is patient autonomy. But yeah, I think it can be difficult in pediatrics. Do you have anything to add, Mahak? Otherwise, we can move on to current events.
I think we can move on to current events. I have some exciting news I want to share. And honestly, I just saw this and I was interested because during last semester, I learned about Prader-Willi. And I'm sure you recall learning about Prader-Willi too. I don't know why this excited me so much, but it did. But basically, on March 26th, I'm just reading this right off, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved selenotherapeutics drug to treat a rare genetic disorder, making it the first treatment available for patients who experience feelings of intense and persistent hunger. The drug, to be called VYKAT XR, treats hyperphagia, the hallmark symptom of Prader-Willi syndrome, a genetic disorder on deletion chromosome 15. We know that. But I think it is interesting now to me, once you learn about certain diseases or certain like symptoms of diseases, to hear about drugs that are being made. Because I think like in the past, when I used to hear like, oh, there's a new drug for this, there's a new drug for that, I didn't really know the importance of it, or like the effect that it could have. But I just think it's an interesting thing to share. And I think a great part of med school is getting excited about things that you weren't excited about before because you didn't know. So that's all. I wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think, and we chose this one partially because this syndrome is very, it appears right away, right, with children. And so, as you know, the drug approval process is very long, for good reason in the US. And so to get breakthroughs like this is exactly why people like to do research and people continue, trudging down the path and, doing projects and stuff. So, yeah, it's very inspiring. And this source is coming from Reuters, and we'll put this on our website and stuff. So in case anybody wants to read more. But yeah, I don't know too much about this syndrome because I haven't learned about it yet. I'm sure I will. And I will let you know if they actually tell us about this drug or not.
Yeah, please do. I think you learn a lot of things in med school, but I feel like I don't know why this one, there's like a few things, like random things that stuck with me. So maybe this is not, like, I hope you're learning about it. I'm sure it's going to be on boards. So maybe Flo can tell us about that. She's studying for boards right now. I don't know if this is a tested concept or not, but most definitely is a tested concept.
Alrighty. Is it step 1 or step 2?
Yeah, so since I go to DO school, it'll be level 1. But
okay. How's that been going?
It's rough, but I actually like it more than studying like lecture material. So I don't mind it as much as like during the school semesters.
Is that because it's more cohesive or
I guess more so because I can kind of form like how I want to study and what works best with me versus like with like lecture material, like I need to know those specific topics, the specific facts. This is more like general, like everything connects with one another, like you kind of asked. So yeah, it's just a lot easier to study in my opinion. And it's more so like filling in gaps rather than learning new info. So it definitely is easier. I mean, not that, but yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it's really difficult, but and Mahak's looking forward to doing that soon.
No. I'm just trying to learn a couple of lectures here and there. It's rough, John. I'm really excited for when you enter med school as well, because then it'll be like, a overall shared sentiment.
Great that you're excited for me to get more work.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think that's going to be awesome. But anyway, in all seriousness, Flo, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so kind of you to take some time out of your busy schedule and join us on our up and coming podcast, which is I'm pretty sure
It has came. It's pretty popular now. I think we have a lot of fans.
Yes, we have.
Time it's counted, what, 29?
Well, it's 31 now.
31?
Is it 31?
I don't
think
know. You're not supposed to check. I think it's bad luck.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we won't check, and then we'll wake up and it'll be like 1,000 or something.
And Florence is here on a special day today, Cinco de Mayo, as of the day that we're recording this. I mean, it's not, obviously, it's a pretty American holiday. It's not really that big in Mexico, but I had a really good shrimp bowl today for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that Cali Mex is so much better than Tex-Mex.
Really?
And that it doesn't exist in the rest of the country, but
yeah, someone from Chicago. I don't really know what this Cali Mex you speak of is. But
anyway, sorry to get off track. I just wanted to talk about my lunch because it was so good.
You know what I had for lunch?
What?
I made this like basil lemon pasta. It was really good.
Basil lemon pasta.
Yeah, it was just
You learned from when we were in Italy.
I want to be truthful and say I saw an Instagram reel yesterday.
Ooh, somebody's picking up stuff off of Instagram Reels.
I'm getting influenced by the media. And I did make this, but you know what? The person who made it, he lives in Italy. So it was an authentic recipe. I will say that.
So you've decided that it's authentic.
He told me it was authentic, and this is the whole point of the podcast. You can't believe things you see on the internet. But it was good.
Okay. I'm not sure why we did a lunch segment, but
yeah, I don't know. We can just anyway. This was a great episode.
Yeah. Thanks for being our first guest. And
first guest. Woo, go for it.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Get back perhaps after you're done studying, so we could hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Give you all the real truth.
Best of luck, Flo.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, bye.